So what I want to do today is I want to kind of have a play around with something that I've been desperate to play around with for quite some time. And I'll be honest with you, like, I think this is an interesting concept. So we're going to look at Dagger, which is a new tool from Solomon Hykes, of Docker fame, creator of Docker. And the premise behind this is to develop CI/CD pipelines as code and run them anywhere. Now, I think this is really interesting as a concept because it means we can write a pipeline, run it in GitHub Actions, run it in HashiCorp Waypoint, run it in Jenkins, run it in Circle CI, anything really. That kind of portability is super interesting to me. Now, I think what's also interesting is that, well, there's a Go SDK, and the Go SDK is what we're going to be taking a look at. So we're going to look at hopefully how we can leverage this Go SDK to write our pipeline in Go for a service written in Go. So Dagger I guess traditionally it's a very new tool, but Dagger has had this Q SDK. So Q being a language not so sort of dissimilar to a sort of a DSL like HashiCorp configuration language, but you have this DSL, which and I'm just trying to kind of show you an example of this, but it's basically you're building up these types. It's a kind of it's a specific language, and this is where Dagger started. It was kind of building out using this language. But what recently has just come out, and it was literally, I think it was just last week, is the Go SDK. So the Go SDK allows you to do all of the same stuff that you can do in Q, but now you can do it using, Go. So theoretically, what you can have is your application code and your build and deploy pipeline all written in the same language. So how does this kind of work behind the scenes? So what you really are doing is you have a Go library, which is your SDK, that interacts with the Dagger engine. And the Dagger engine is responsible for creating and managing a bunch of Docker containers, where you're going to have things like your build steps, your deploy steps, varying applications. So it is because it's all built on Docker, it's completely reusable. Anywhere where you've got Docker and the ability, in this instance, Go, then we can kind of build and run these pipelines. Where it kind of works slightly differently from sort of traditional CI is it's got a DAG, or a directed acyclic graph. So every job goes into the DAG. You've got the ability to model dependency, and therefore success and fail can trigger particular dependency and all sorts of things like that. So it's very, very nice to be able to kind of have that built in. So we're going to write some Go code. I'm going to also write a little web application as well. But the first thing we need to do is we need to basically just create a Go mod. So Go mod init. So that's created the Go mod there. And what we then can do is we can go through and we can kind of install the Dagger app. And to install that, we're just going to run go get. We're going to add Dagger as a module to our application. And then we're running this replace command inside of Go. And what that's going to do is it's going to change the references of GitHub Docker to using a very specific tag. Now, this is a sort of a fairly sort of common thing if you're using Docker's SDKs, that there's a kind of incompatibilities between certain, I don't want to say logros, but it's always logros. But it doesn't matter because we've got this replace command. I'm just going to paste that in there. That is adding I'm going to go fetch Dagger. It's going to install it, and it is going to update my Go mod. So the first thing that we're going to build is let's build our example service before we write our Dagger code. And we'll do the classic 5 or 6 line of Go's hello world. So I'm adding a main.go, and it's going to be package main. We're going to write our func main. and we are literally just going to do the HTTP listen and serve. So HTTP dot listen and serve. Let's do all IP addresses, port 9090. And what we are going to then do is we're going to add, we're going to use the default handler. So let's write our handle func, HTTP dot handle func, and we're just going to do the root, and then we're just going to do the kind of this old standard. I'm sure if you've used Go, you will be very familiar with this, writing this code here. Just need to give that a variable. Okay, so we can save that, and then what we are going to do is literally just do hello Dagger or something like that. So let's just do format.f print, and we're going to print to RW, and we are just going to say hello Dagger. All right, so let's just give that a quick test. Go run main.go curl localhost 9090. There we go. Hello Dagger. So that's our very basic web app running. So we've now got an application. So what we can do is start building some stuff. So let's have a look at the Dagger source, and let's see what we've got to do next. So what we're doing, we're creating a context. That makes sense because in this instance, I am guessing Dagger will be using the context to manage things like cancellations, timeouts, and stuff like that. And then you create a connect to the Dagger engine. Okay, then we're just returning an error and doing the defer client close to clean up after ourselves. And let's have a look down what we got next. And then we can build a Git repo. Now, I think this is really interesting, actually, this approach here where you can basically kind of define a Git repo just using a repo URL, and Dagger will automatically sort of pull that for you, which is kind of nice. What I am going to do is I don't have a Git repo, not yet, so I'm going to use my local source, but I am going to do my build Golang latest, and then we're going to do the execs. Like all good things, let's do some copy pasta. We need to, let's add a new folder. We're going to add a folder, Dagger. And in there, I am going to add I'm just going to call it Dagger, dagger.go. And we are literally just going to create an executable here. And for now, I am just going to put everything into a single file. All right, so what have we got? We are getting our context, we're connecting to Dagger, we are telling Dagger that we want to write the log out to OS standard out, and if there's an error, we want to return the error. Well, we're not doing this, we're doing this all in our main function. So instead of returning an error, let's do format.printf. I'm going to say error connecting to Dagger. What does it actually connect to? Let's have a quick look. Dagger engine. Error connecting to Dagger engine. And then %s, we're going to output the error. And then what we will do is we're going to do os.exit, and we're going to exit with the status code 1. So we can save this. So we have this. We're going to do Dagger connect client.close. Well, let's see how that'll work so far. So go run dagger.go. Okay, I was pretty sure I've already added this, but never mind. Okay, so it says no build kit container found, creating one. So let me open my Docker. So what Dagger has done is it has created a build kit container inside my Docker engine, and that's kind of running there. And this is what we're going to use for any of the kind of the build steps that Dagger's going to do. Any of the bits and pieces all going to run self-contained, which is going to make it really nice and portable. So we have Dagger Connect, we're doing the client.close. So what is next? Well, the next thing that we're going to do is it says that we need to get a source folder, and the recommendation is to use, well, we can clone it from a repository. I want to use the local folder. So when I was looking through the documentation, I spotted some stuff which I can use. So Dagger has this capability. So everything is kind of like, and I'm kind of still working through this, but you've got the varying sort of caches and folders and things like that. Now everything is running in Docker, so everything has to be kind of passed into the Docker host in order to work. So there is this concept of a directory. Now, a directory can actually be a container directory, or in this instance, what we can actually do is get a reference of the current working directory on the host. And that's what I want to use for my source. So I think I can do that. So I'm going to do create folder, and I'm going to do client.host.working directory. Now, working directory doesn't gives me a host directory. What I'm going to need, because I kind of, when I was plugging into this, is an ID. So we'll kind of come back to this in a second, and I'll kind of show you. But the next step is that what we need to do is this build step. So we are, okay, so we're going to create the output path from the host. All right, going to create a new Golang exec. So that's on our Golang container. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's do this first. Okay, so we're going to create a Golang container. So guessing we're creating a reference here, and this is what's going to be used for any of our builds. So we'll do that. And we do want Golang latest. Now with mounted directory, yeah, we're going to mount it into the source folder of the Golang container. And this is going to need a source. Okay, so it's saying we can't use source as a with the variables host directory. We need a directory ID. Now, when I was kind of digging into this a little earlier, what you can actually do is you can call read, and you can get an ID. So this is going to give me my ID that I can pass into source. Now, obviously, if I can't read this folder, then I'm going to get an error back. So let's handle our error gracefully, like Go citizens should. So error getting reference to host directory. And I think what's interesting here is we're kind of going through and we're building a lot of this up manually, but actually you can think that if you had a consistent sort of way for building your applications, you could easily build these up as Go packages and then just pull them in, which I think is a very nice way to do it. Now we've got the ID, so this is kind of like a volume ID. We can then use that inside of source there. So the next thing that we want to do is we can actually start executing things in the container. If we kind of have a look quickly back at the example here, that's exactly what's going on. We're just running go exec, then we're just doing go build on the path. So it's fairly straightforward stuff there. So we're going to do golang dot exec context, and then we have these Dagger container exec options. So Dagger, container exec options, and we've got args, which is going to be string. So kind of the standard way that you would find this in Docker. The arguments, what we're going to do, we are going to do go, and we're going to do build, and then we are going to specify output, and output is going to go to build like that. And that, sorry, it doesn't take a context, it just takes a container options. All right. So we can do that, and then let's have a quick look at the example again. So we're going to do like Golang exec, and then it's saying we can get the build output from folder. Well, let's run this first, and let's see if it's working. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to do my go run dagger.go, and well, it didn't fail. Maybe didn't do anything either. So let's have a look here. We're not getting any output. Okay, so let's have a look at just get the exit code here. Get the exit code. This does take a context. And what does this give us? This gives us an integer for our exit code and an error. And it says that null if no command has been executed. 0 means success. All right. So we can just grab this error. So let's just have a look at this, and then we'll change things up in a second. So we're going to say, instead of error getting reference to host, we're going to say error executing command in container. And we're just going to throw away the error code, grab our error there. And now let's run it again. So resolving image config for Golang latest. So we're now getting the output from Docker. This is kind of nice. It means something is possibly working. So we can see there it's pulling a Docker container, which is cool. It's running in the kind of the build environment. And if you kind of look over here, do that Docker PS again, it's still just that one Docker container that I have running. So it's just the build kit environment that Dagger has started. So that's kind of nice. It's keeping it nice and contained. And okay, well, we're done. It says it's worked. So I guess the next thing we do is we copy that build binary and see if we can get that. So to do that, what we're going to do is we get the build output from the builder. So we can use directory on our Golang container. We specify the path. Okay, so this is the path that we want to copy. And then we do workdir write, and we copy it to, okay, write it out to a particular folder. So that's the source folder. All right. So first things first, let's grab this. So it's golang.directory.id. So we're going to get directory ID. All right. So it's golang.directory, and then we need the path that we want to get. So this is going to be, now this is interesting. This path, is that local? What is that path? Okay, so the path is obviously relative to the working directory in the container. So it's not, I'm not doing /source build, I'm just doing path. Okay. All right. Let's give that a go. Let's define path, and path is going to be build like that. Now, get the directory path, we need to get the ID for it, and we pass it our context. And what this returns is a directory ID and an error. Now, I have to admit, I ran this a little bit earlier because I was just playing around, and I found a little bit of a gotcha here. Now, in terms of what I'm doing is this exit code, and I need to kind of dig into this a little bit more, but it seems that what happens is this exec statement doesn't run until I try and get the exit code or I try and get a directory from things. If I use exit code and then try to get the directory, I'm not going to get it. So I need to just change this up ever so slightly. And we're just going to do Golang exec, which just returns as a container. So it's references. So I'm just going to grab a new reference to that container. Then I can get my directory ID. So we're going to get build folder, get an error, and then, is that correct? Let me just double check that. Yep. Check the error there. So error fetching data from container. And if we do get an error, we are going to exit. All right. So now what we need to also do is we need to create that build folder. You know what? I'm not going to create that build folder. I'm going to show you how I know that I need to create that build folder. Hey, Miguel, you are absolutely correct. And I think it's a really good point to bring up. When I'm kind of running through some of this stuff, specifically something like this, which is very experimental, I'm not going to be using 100% best practices. And I'm doing that for kind of speed and brevity, but you are 100% that you should always use a structured logging package. Format.println is great for CLI stuff, but you know, for kind of anything that you want to parse, structured logger is always the way to go. Okay, so let's not use this right. Oh, okay, sorry. Let's use this right now. So we can do build dot. No, let's have a look at that example. Okay. Working directory dot write. Okay, so we need another reference to the working directory, and then we can write that to it. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to do work dir, and that is going to be client dot host dot working directory. Now, I am not reusing the source directory that I created earlier, and that's because I don't have the right reference, and I just don't want to change it. I'll change it later. But we're getting a reference to our working directory, and then what we can do is we can call work directory dot write context. Then what else do we need? We need context. We need the contents that we want to write. So a directory ID that we just got from the Golang container, and then the options. Okay. So we're going to write build, and we're going to write dagger.host directory write options. Host directory write options. And that takes a path, I believe. Yeah, and this is going to be the path where we are going to write it to. And again, it's going to be relative to the working directory. So we will write the folder build. Now I'm going to run this, and it's going to fail because I haven't created a build folder, but at least we'll be able to see what happens when something fails. First things first, let's grab our error. Throw that away. Just grab our error there. Say error writing data. Error writing data. Error writing directory. Error writing directory. Okay. Let's clear this. Now, I know this is going to fail because I did it earlier. but I think it's interesting. We can look at some of the output, right? So we're getting some output, and it says error writing directory, host.work directory write, and then it's saying lstat. So it's giving me the path here. So it's saying home, Nick J, source, GitHub, Nicholas Jackson, Dagger example, build. Build doesn't exist. Okay. That's a fairly nice error message, and we can just add some code in here to create that directory. So we can do os dot make directory and the name. And okay, so we're going to do file path dot join current folder path, and it's mode perm, isn't it? Mode perm. I believe this is going to return me an error. Is that correct? Yes, it is. Okay, so again, we're going to be a good citizen. We're going to say if error is not equal to nil, then let's just write that out. Format dot printf error creating output folder, and let's write the error as well. And then we can do os.exit. All right, let's run this again. Clear this. Okay, so far so good. Everything's looking fine there. I'm excited. Let's have a look. And we have a binary in there, so let's have a look here. Dagger example, I'm running it. Get my other terminal up. Let's do that curl again. Hello, Dagger. I think that's pretty cool. So what we've just done is we have just built our application, built a very simple pipeline. I want to say it's a very simple pipeline, but it's all in Go. So the next thing that we're going to do, I think, is, well, let's package this up into a Docker container and let's push it to the Docker registry. Sound good? All right. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add a Docker file. Docker file. And we're just going to do from Alpine latest. And well, I'm not entirely certain what the paths are going to be yet, but I'm going to make a guess. And I'm thinking it is going to be copy /build /Dagger example, and we're going to put it in app Dagger example. Make directory app. Okay, and then what we can do is we can just set our entry point. And entry point, I can never remember. I think it's an array, but we'll find out in just a second. If anybody on chat can correct me, then that would be awesome. Save me the hassle. Dagger sample. Well, and why do you not like that? Weird thing. Anyway, let's so I can tell you straight away that this is not going to work, and I'm going to tell you why it's not going to work. Well, the reason that it's not going to work is because I don't have Seago switched off in my build. And because I don't have Seago switched off in my build, Alpine, which uses muscle libc instead of just kind of libc, it's going to all just go bent. So we need to kind of do that. Oops, my bad, wrong folder. We just need to add disable cgo at the beginning here. So cgo enabled equals 0. Oh, and can I remember if it's an underscore? It is. Or is it? Let's do our Dagger build again. The entry point contains a colon instead of a quote. Oh, thank you. And that was why, Victor, you win a prize. As soon as I figure out what it is definitely my love, because you've saved a bunch of time there. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our Dagger build again. Go run dagger.go. Oh, directory exists. Well, there we go. So I always thought this failed silently, but never mind. So we've got here, make directory, blah, blah, blah. So we can basically say, here's the directory path, blah, blah, blah. But if this exists, then I am fine with that. I don't want to delete it or clean it up or anything like that. So we're going to run this again. We're running, done our build, error fetching data from the container. Okay, so our build failed. And I would be 100% certain it's because of cgo equals 0 on there. That's probably because of the because we're running Docker args. Okay, so can we set environment variables? All right, we can. We can do with env var. So cgo enabled and a value 0. This is nice. Try this again. Running this time. Okay, and our builds worked. And that, I think it'll have worked. We'll kind of see. We've got our build folder there. So let's do a test build. So Docker build. And we're going to use the current folder. Let's give it a name. We're just going to call it testing latest dot. Okay, so that's done that. So now let's do Docker run -it testing latest. No such file or example. Let's have a look. My suspicion is that cgo enabled maybe isn't getting set there. Oh, sorry, I see. American, I see what you're saying. You're saying we shouldn't be doing it on the exec. We should be doing it on the mounted container. We do it here like this. Let's do our Dagger build. All right, doing that there. Now let's do our Docker build, our Docker run. So we've got our Docker container now, and that's kind of, I think, pretty cool. But we don't want to build the Docker container by hand. We want to build the Docker container using Dagger, and we can do that, right? So what we can do is we can create a new container. So we're going to call it build, and we are going to do client.container, but instead of from, what we're going to do is build. Okay. So we're going to do build, and it expects a directory ID, and then we can give it some build options. So I'm going to do container build. The directory ID that I can use, well, let's try using source, which is the, what have I called? Oh gosh, call this build container. Just call it BC. Do the source there, and what else have we got the ability to do in here? Well, we don't want to do an exec. Let's just get the exit code. So this is going to give us the exit code. Is that correct? Let me just try this. Pretty sure this is correct. Build creates a container, initializes the container from a Docker file build. And container build options. Okay, so what are the container build options? So build and Dagger container build options. What are these? Sorry, let me just tidy up. Not an OCD or anything. Specify the Docker file. Okay, we don't need that. Then, okay. Then actually, we were fine as we had it. Should have just looked at it before. So we can do that. We're going to do our build. Let's run that and see what happens. That was not what I wanted to do. I want to go run my dagger.go. So doing my build, okay. So now it's done the Go build. It's done Docker build. So now what can we do with this? We can do a build and publish. Publish into container as a new image, returning a fully qualified reference. That sounds exactly what we want to do. We're going to publish this using our context again. What is the address? Now, address here is actually the name of the Docker container. So I'm going to push it to Nicholas Jackson, which is my Docker Hub repo, because I have I'm already logged in. We're going to call it Dagger example. And we're going to do latest. And then this gives us an error, I'm guessing, and a fully qualified domain. Okay, so we're going to get the, we'll just call it CN, container name, and the error. And let's do our stuff. Going to do error, creating and pushing container. If it all does work, we're going to do format.printf successfully create a new container. And then we do CN, get the reference to it. And let's run this. So go run dagger.io. Doing the build, pushing the layers. That's a good sign. Let's go over to browser again. I am logged into my Docker Hub, so let me just refresh this. Dagger example. That's what we've just created. There's our tag. And let's have a look. What we have it there. It has worked. 6 meg. That looks about right. So if we do, let's go back to our code and let's just give it a quick test. So Docker run -it -p 9090 and it was Nicholas Jackson, such an awkward name to type. Dagger example latest. Okay, unable to find, pulling, downloaded, curl, localhost 9090, hello Dagger. That's sweet. I think that's cool, and it works. So we've gone through, we've built our application. Okay, it's a simple example, but we've used the Dagger SDK to build our application using Go code, and we've actually pushed it to the Docker registry again. So we've got like half a pipeline there, right? Like I think the reality, it's a nice simple example, but we need to do a little bit more. We need to build some infrastructure, and we need to push the infrastructure. And I think we'll do that next time. Thank you all so much. I hope you've enjoyed. And until next time, keep coding some Go. All right, laters.